Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here again with another little My Thoughts on episode. I do these every once in a while, not too often. I don't know if I should do them more, do them less. I don't know. Tell me what you think. But before I get to babbling about the topic for today, I just want to ask you to like, share, and subscribe to keep this music alive, because that's kind of what we do here is we talk about bands that have been around a while, what they're up to, what they're doing. In this case, our thoughts on things. I babble a lot. People comment. It's kind of fun. I think. Some other people think. So if you want to join in, cool. More the merrier. So that's what we do. Just kind of talk about stuff. And today's topic is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it's one of these things that I just kind of didn't care about. I haven't cared about for a while. I used to love, way back when I was younger, getting in the music scene, who was being nominated. I thought it was cool. Loved watching the ceremonies and all the performances. And, just really enjoyed it. And as time went on, I kind of noticed that the artists being inducted weren't always rock and roll. In fact, sometimes really far from rock and roll. So that was kind of the turning point for me. I just stopped really caring. I used to see people, like Eddie Trunk, I used to watch that metal show, rail against it and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but this year, for some reason, I've just saw a couple things popped up in my feed that were talking about it again. And, I saw the nominees, and I was like, this seriously, I should I was thinking in my head, I should just start my own Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and make my own thing on this. I don't know. Just to make it actually just something to talk about as far as actual rock musicians. And I was just like, what is the criteria for being nominated anyway? What are the rules? How do they determine what is rock and roll? Because the music title itself, rock and roll, when you think about what rock and roll actually is, it's, to me anyway, I think of Chuck Berry and music from back in the 50s and stuff like that, when blues kind of turned into electric and became a little bit more upbeat. You had Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper and bands like that. That was kind of rock and roll, at least that's how I view it. And then it turned into other things from that point on. We got hard rock, you got the psychedelic, heavy metal, and then it just branched out into a million different areas. And so what actually is rock and roll? I guess you could look at it that way. I definitely don't view other styles of music. You don't see jazz in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You don't see Frank Sinatra. I don't think he's in there, is he? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, or Lawrence Welk, bands like that. So how far does it actually branch? Does disco count? Does funk count? I don't know what counts anymore. It's kind of a really vague title at this point. I don't even know what rock and roll means when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It doesn't really mean anything, I don't think, anymore. So I don't know if they should just change the name of it to the Music Hall of Fame or Pop Rock Hall of Fame, or I don't know. It's rock and roll just seems too narrow of a title or too broad. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it. I'm riffing here. I don't know. But so I kind of looked up, what is the criteria? And basically it's really vague. It's really vague. They have to have at least, to be considered for, nomination or induction, you have to have at least released a song, just any recorded song, 25 years prior to whatever year it is. And you must have demonstrated musical excellence, impact, and influence. That's it. That's the only criteria. It doesn't say album sales aren't even listed there. Tours, public, good deeds, nothing like that. It just says demonstrate musical excellence, which is really open to interpretation. Impact, which can be measured a little bit, I guess. And influence also can be measured, but talk about vague. And then it says, below this, I'm kind of reading this here. It says, commercial success is something that people consider. It's not actually criteria, but it's some things that the people voting on this consider. Critical acclaim is another thing, longevity, and lasting influence. But those aren't like necessary. That's just what a lot of people say that they consider when they're voting on it. And I looked to see who was actually on this nominating committee, who comes up with the inductees. It's about 30 people. And when I read down the list, I understood why they were calling this year's nominations diverse, because you have a lot of people that lean one way. And I would feel the exact same way, in my opinion, here if it leaned the opposite way. I just don't like when things are influenced because of the way people view the world. I don't know. I think music should be considered valuable based on the music, like music only. That's it. So I just didn't like that. That's just my little, I don't want to get into anything too deep there, but I just didn't like that. And of course, then the voting begins, and it says there's only about 1,200 members that vote on this, which seems like really small. And, so basically, if you have a friend that's on that committee and you're in the music business, you probably have a good chance of being nominated. Or if you're in that group of people, it seems like, or the style of music that people likes, that's what's going to get nominated. It seems like a very small group of people that does the voting on this, quite honestly. I never really looked into this before. So just that alone just leads me to believe this really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. I mean, you got a very small amount of people that decide this. So like, why do we care so much? I don't know. But looking at the list of nominees, if I could pop it up here again, it just I don't know. It's just strange. You got the Black Crowes, which I get. They've been around all the time. They're keeping that southern rock feel alive. I think they have influenced a lot of people, sold a lot of albums. I get that one. Jeff Buckley, I personally don't listen to at all. I don't even know any of my friends who listen to him. It has never come up in conversation with anybody I've ever talked to. In the years I've been involved in music, that's just one name that I don't ever remember talking about with anybody. I've seen it, out there, and I know who he is. It's not, I don't know if that qualifies or not. Maybe I'm way off target there. Maybe it's just I live around people that don't, I don't know. That one that just didn't mean anything to me. Mariah Carey, yeah, huge. Influence a lot of people. In my opinion, not rock and roll. So that would classify in a Hall of Fame. I don't know necessarily it would be the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It just doesn't make sense to me. Phil Collins, I guess that could be considered rock and roll, although he gets definitely more in the pop vein solo. He's already inducted with Genesis, I believe, which, it's prog rock. It's got rock elements. I guess some of his solo stuff would be considered rock, but definitely way more pop and huge. And he was gigantic. I mean, he was at that point in time, he was releasing all his stuff in the late 80s, early 90s, I guess. Huge, especially 80s, just gigantic. So I get why he's considered. Melissa Etheridge, who also has been around forever, and when she hit the scene, she hit big. I remember hearing the song "Bring Me Some Water" the first time, and I thought it was just cool, and I really liked that. Influenced a lot of female artists, and I think there's a lot before her that influenced her as well. But as time goes on, you have people that were influenced by other female artists also influenced further, and artists. And I consider her rock, I guess. I mean, especially the earlier stuff she did. She never really strayed too far from that, quite honestly. I guess I consider it rock. Lauryn Hill, I don't know. She did one album, and I mean, I know people praise this album. I couldn't tell you one single song off of it. It was Breathing Softly, isn't it? Didn't she redo? Was that a Roberta Flack song she redid or something? I can't even think of the title of it off the top of my head now. Nothing I would consider anything influential on the rock, and definitely not long lasting. She did one album, so I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. Billy Idol's kind of questionable. I mean, he was one of the first punk rock mainstream to, whatever crossover type thing you want to call him. It was like he started out kind of punk rock, but then had that rock flavor, pop flavor in it, and was obviously huge when his first couple albums came out, but still around. But the stuff he's released after the 80s was not huge impactful or anything like that as far as I would consider. For a very short period of time, that stuff was really cool, and the songs are still played, so the longevity is there. So I don't know, I'm on the fence with that one. In Excess, even though I couldn't stand this band when I first heard, the first time I heard Kick, or I shouldn't even say Kick, just Need You Tonight. When I first heard that song, I was like, man, what the heck is this? Although I had heard, them before, and I actually liked the earlier stuff. When I heard What You Need, I was like, that does not rock. What happened to this band? But then I got the album later on, many, many years later, and I actually loved the album. And it is kind of rock. I would consider them rock, actually. More unique. I don't even know what kind of style you would actually call them, but they definitely have rock in them, and they were a huge influence. I think Michael Hutchence was still around today. This band would be like still huge. So I get it. Iron Maiden, of course. How are they not in there already? Yes, I'm a metal fan, but still, come on, just think about it. The influence. This is one of the bands that I first heard back in the early 80s when I was getting into rock. Huge influence on me back then, and just Steve Harris's bass playing alone has influenced hundreds, if not thousands, of bass players. The songwriting style, the dual guitar, which was also influenced, I think, by Thin Lizzy, who is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame either. Which is a crying shame. How is that band not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, come on, it's crazy. So yes, of course, Iron Maiden should be there. One of the biggest touring bands around. I don't know about album sales, but I'm sure they've sold gold and platinum. I know they've got at least that, and still around. So they fit everything in the criteria. Just visually exciting, musically exciting, influential, longevity. I don't know. And even to this day, they're still making music. So not just touring on the old stuff, they're still making new music as well. So that one's just crazy that they're not even already in there. Joy Division, New Order / why there's two there. I don't know anything about this band. Not my wheelhouse. I don't even know one song of theirs, so I can't even comment on this because I don't even know what style of music that is. I do not listen to it. Cannot speak on it at all. Sorry. But I have nothing to say about that one. Unless you're talking about Kenny Rogers, I don't know. This one makes no sense. They're influenced on what, boy bands maybe, but that's not rock and roll, and they're not even a band. It's not a band. I don't know what to tell you. That doesn't make any sense at all. Crazy. Oasis, yes, rock band, who were quite noticeably influenced. In fact, they talked about it, that they were hugely influenced by the Beatles, so much so that they were accused of plagiarism when they first came out. And they're still huge to this. They just announced their comeback tour, which is like gigantic. I do like Oasis. I listen to their stuff. Didn't at first. It took me a few years to start appreciating it much. Their super huge hits are the stuff I like the least. I actually like their more later in their career albums where they're more experimental and, a little bit different. Later on, their last couple albums I actually like the most of anything they ever did. But yeah, I get it. They should be in there. They were influential. They're still making music individually, apart from each other, two brothers, and now they're out back, supposed to be going on tour again. So get it. It makes sense. Pink, however, I don't know if she's influential at all. I wouldn't consider her rock and roll. Some of the songs lean a little bit rock, I guess. I do like some of her music. I think she's a great singer. I just don't see her as being even relevant nowadays. I don't hear her name coming up and being long lasting. I don't think she was one of the originators of being the female solo artists back when Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera were huge. She actually sang about them in her songs and compared herself to them as not being like them. So they were already part of the scene, and people were considering Pink along the same lines back. And I remember like when she first came out, and she was railing against it, saying she was not like them, which I agree. However, definitely not one of the originators or anything. And I don't even know what she's doing nowadays. I couldn't even tell you the last thing I heard from her. So I don't know. I don't think that one's it. Sade, great singer, great voice, not anywhere close to rock and roll. Influential, I don't know how it influenced anybody in the rock and roll world. I don't follow that style of music, so she influenced people in that genre. Don't know. Definitely not rock. So or rock and roll. So I don't even think it's even string hard from that tree. I mean, one of the little tiny branches on the end that's growing a little tiny leaf. I don't think she even falls into that category. Shakira, same thing. Probably extremely hugely influential in the Spanish-speaking market and gigantic star. Not rock, not rock and roll. I just don't think that makes any sense. Same thing with Luther Vandross. That's just easy listening stuff. Couldn't name you anything he does. Don't follow that music. Not rock and roll. I know he's hugely influential, but it's just not rock and roll. And then Wu-Tang Clan. I don't really know what that is. I remember hearing the name back in the day. Couldn't name a song. I think it's rap, but I could be wrong there. Like I said, didn't listen to them. I don't see that anything close to being rock and roll. Makes no sense. So anyway, that's like the whole list. I know this one's going really long, but holy moly. So what do we got? Out of all of those, we got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that are I would even consider possibilities. And I'm not going to run down the list of names of people who are not in there already, but that list is insanely long of people that should be in there. And I could just name after name after name after name after name. And if I said a bunch of those names, you would be shocked to know that they're not in there and be scratching your head as to how these people are overlooked time and time and time and time again. And I don't know. Maybe I'll just do my list. I don't know, somewhere down the line of people I think should be in there. And I don't know. It just frustrates me to think that that's how this is done, and people pay so much attention to this. I think the better thing we could all do is just not pay any attention to this at all and be like, this is dismissive, and just hopefully they change the name to just music, American music. I guess there's more American bands in there, but the pop music Hall of Fame, something along those lines. I don't know. I don't even know what to think anymore of it, but not impressed with the list and their way of doing things, and it still means nothing to me. Although I just made a whole video on it, but it was kind of inspiring in different ways, I guess. So anyway, that's my little rant for today, and until I get another, topic, we'll see you.